Hi, I'm Drew Hutchison. You're tuned to Local Bias. We come to you from the studios of Greenfield Community Television at 393 Main Street in beautiful downtown Greenfield. And today we're talking once again about a subject that's near to my heart, and it's actually quite close to everybody that's within our listening audience, because I'm talking about the Connecticut River, and it runs through our backyard. With me is environmental journalist Karl Meyer. Karl, what's going on with the river?
Drew, we are... how many times have we done this now?
At least a dozen, I think.
We have done it yearly for at least as long as the relicensing or the bid for relicensing of First Light Power, which is public sector pension investments Canada. Global outfit came and bought Northfield Mountain and Turners Falls Hydro we've been doing this since 2012 when the FERC process started. They came in 2016, 2 years later. They sort of broke up their assets and changed the name of the game, and they're still operating on a license that was signed in 1968, and they're making money to beat the band. And let's see, let me give you just a quick thumbnail sketch of what's happening on the Connecticut River right now. There are still baby shad that are migrating, the few that make it upstream, and but they can breed in, eggs, larvae, and young of the year. There are tens of thousands of them been coming down river. They get sucked into the giant maw of the river reversing Northfield Mountain. And then when Northfield spits out, they're dead. Basically, nothing survives there. They get reshuffled into the Turners Falls Power Canal for a second thrashing through there. So there's huge killing. I guess the estimation were like 1.2 million. This is U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. 1.2 million per year of juvenile shad are lost at Northfield alone. But right now, First Light is cleaning out the Turners Falls Power Canal, right? So
they're saving the cuddly lampreys.
The diversion has gone, all the water is going out into the actual river for like a week, right? So I was over there just a day or two before.
Right.
This is going to air in a few days, but this was Tuesday afternoon, which is a day and three quarters after they drained the canal, and there was a big deal about few hundred lamprey get studied and moved. Some of them get moved to other rivers, and the big rescue, right? A couple hundred.
Out of how many thousands of dead fish?
Tens of thousands of dead fish, hundreds of thousands.
So how come in the recorder, when I read that article and I saw it sounded like this is a good thing, and it's like it's so friendly to the lampreys, but it's really a sign of how much we're destroying the river.
It's kind of like a certain kind of window dressing. It's sort of like, well, we have some agency here because we can save a few things, and Conti Lab, USGS, sort of goes in the school, and it's kind of a bells and whistles, red herring. Oh, we're doing good. Lamprey aren't going anywhere. They've been around for 320 million years, okay? I've heard even Melissa Grader or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service talk about lamprey as the low-hanging fruit on the Connecticut River. The big thing is the shad. But I was over there Tuesday, and you can go over there. I think by the time this airs, the canal may still be empty. You'll see the mound. There is this much muck and silt that's clogging up the canal. And you can't get on the bikeway right now, but you can get on the path that goes down to Conti Lab. This is G Street, and it becomes Migratory Way. But when the canal pulls out, there's a whole bunch of, it looks like seaweed. There's a little mat. And I showed you the pictures. There are hundreds and hundreds of fish. And of Tuesday, they were still, sort of giving up the ghost. But that's what's going on. Then we have the Source to Sea cleanup. That's coming this weekend, Drew.
Yeah, it's a feel-good story.
It is another feel-good story, and it's nice to, sort of make Northfield Mountain remains and still makes the Connecticut River New England's best landscape sewer. I mean, it's just a monstrous killer machine. But, taking trash out of the river and out alongside the edges does make people feel good. But there was a letter to the editor, Pocky Wayland. Pocky. You've had her, I think, on the show. They said, that's great, but until we shut down this monster, no cleanup will ever be complete on the Connecticut River. So that's what's going on. As we talk, living rivers flow downstream. Northfield, for 50 years, the unspeakable, the unimaginable has been occurring here, and we've sort of just let it go on. Mm-hmm. Somehow it got left behind in the nuclear age. And right here in Franklin County is where the Connecticut River ecosystem and the river breaks. It virtually breaks. If you're sucking a river, a minimum, I'd say, of 3 miles downstream from Drew.
Let's see it. Come on, Carl.
Here we go. The minimum of 3 miles downstream from Northfield. And this is the Connecticut River. We've done this before. I love to bring my little spoon here. This is the Connecticut River going backwards when Northfield is pumping at 15,200 cubic feet per second. It goes from here, and then you got to reattach it down to here. That's the French King Bridge. You're getting to the power lines, French King Rock. This is where the river's going upstream at maybe a foot per second. That's 2 and 3 feet per second moving up to the machine that's up here that virtually turns the Connecticut River into a killer machine, a slaughterhouse, right?
Right.
And also when it dumps out, it pushes water upstream at 20,000 cubic feet per second for at least a mile. So we have like a river, we don't know how far down this goes. It probably goes to the big curve. On Miller's Falls Road, it bangs into the riverbank where it makes a curve, and town of Montague's had to pay for that repair because the river is falling apart. And come on, people, 20,000 cubic feet per second, bang, bang, bang. The other piece of this is the interesting thing about Turner's Falls Power Canal is it is so mucked up on the riverside with muck that it is pushing water to the left side of the canal, right downstream on river left, you'd call it, because it really is the Connecticut River for most of the year, and that is pushing water onto the bank over there. It's really just an earthen berm, right? And they have been trying to fix this, but water is flowing to the left, and it's going back towards the original canal, which is on the other side of Montague City Road. And
is that why it keeps flooding there all the time?
Who's paying for those repairs too?
How often is that road has a detour sign?
All of a sudden it is, and it's leaking like a sieve. They're doing some work on it. And the other piece that we're paying for in the Commonwealth is when there are flood flows or where there are high flows, there are things called the tainter gates on the gill side of the river, on that side of the river. They open those things up, and all the flow crashes into the riverbank below Route 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, they had the fall in there.
They had the fall in there. That was $1 million repair for the taxpayers of Massachusetts. And
but the shareholders are doing okay, Carl.
Oh my God, $250 billion PSP investments, global. Northfield itself, $159 million was reported one year. That's about how much they're going to spend, a little more over the 50 years of their proposed contract, right?
It's just a money grab for them.
It is, and we keep paying for the local destruction here. I kind of want to keep this. I don't know why, but let's
just don't abuse it.
What went wrong? You know.
Well, I still don't understand why Jim McGovern hasn't done anything.
Well, it's an
who do you
interesting
turn
piece.
to?
At this point, you know, what's been so sad is the unspoken truths have only been spoken in a few places, and we've done our best. And
regulatory
First
capture.
Amendments, I know all that. When you have the Connecticut River, the Conservancy, the Connecticut River Watershed Council, now doing business as Connecticut River Conservancy, when they do not even publicly say we have a dead river, they do not use the term and stand up and write about it and speak to the public about a river that's going backwards.
Right.
And is dead, and it's.
Or are they funded by Eversource or something? I mean,
well,
is there
Eversource
a reason
is
that
not even? We're talking. I mean, Eversource is in the mix or whatever, but it is First Light.
First Light, right?
Yeah, but they used to hold hands with Eversource. The river cleanup, I'm sure they get some money. They take part in the cleanup or whatever. The McGovern piece is sort of outside of us. I mean, the justice needed to come from here, the people in Franklin County, because this is where the river goes to die, and it impacts Vermont and New Hampshire. I was going to ask you one other thing before I move on from that, is that we have a Homelands Festival, Native people's homeland, comes every August, I think, to the banks of the Connecticut River. And people don't even use the real language of the river. They do not turn around. I think the people that come and speak, which are Wampanoag, Abenaki, Narragansett people that come up here and take part in the festival. There are a few talks, but everybody is told they can't really talk about First Light and the Dead River behind them because it's taken place on First Light's land, and they are accepting money from First Light. And it's if you lose your language, if you can't even speak the language of the Connecticut River, if you're a conservancy, or you're calling the Connecticut River, you're phonetically talking about the ancient language here. Well, if you've lost the language of a river, how do you expect to save it? Mm-hmm. How do you expect to save it? This is something I just. We didn't cover the McGovern piece. We'll get back to that because
we have other shows we can do as well, Karl. This isn't going away.
This is how desperate I've been. This is a piece from May. This is from Commonwealth News and Voices. Crushing your right to a living river. My first line in this was, "Dear Vermont, New Hampshire, thank you for not suing us." I mean, that's what we've been praying for. I mean, is there an honest lawyer that wants to leave a little bit of life for the future generations?
Think about Franklin County. The no nukes really happened because of Sam Lovejoy and the Montague Plains.
Yeah.
I mean, that changed the whole country. And yet this same area is not acting on behalf of the river.
Drew, will you pray with me for a minute? Just pray that we can a lawyer that cares about its children in the future. Maybe the audience can take a moment and just pray. I mean, that's that's how desperate
we are. Desperate.
I ended that piece with, again, thank you for not suing us. Right? I mean, the buck eventually stops in Massachusetts. Right? Mm-hmm. We're heading towards this. It's sort of kabuki theater, okay? There was a big Mass DEP. We're going to have some substantive, robust discussions about the 401 water quality certificate, right? Which First Light needs to have in order to operate this thing for 50 years into the future. And there was an online piece back in May, I think. And there's another one coming up on October 10th, right? It's going to happen at the Shea Theater, people. So you can go online, you can go to Mass DEP First Light Power, and you'll find a way to check in. And it's happening virtually and in person.
So this is different than commenting on FERC's regulatory website itself, which that deadline already passed. This is a separate action that people can take that can still halt.
That could potentially, right? So people can go on, they can register online to do virtual or whatever. So that's, but the thing is, it's just public comments. The interesting thing is supposedly Mass Division of Fish and Wildlife is going to be there, Mass Conservation and Recreation are going to be there. These are two institutions that have signed a comprehensive agreement with First Light that said, basically, as did U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, National Marine Fisheries Service, that we will defend the comprehensive agreement for a foreign-owned corporation, PSP Investments, First Light, against challenges to the Clean Water Act,
to the actual stakeholders,
and the water quality certificate, DEP. So they basically signed on with another country to defend an indefensible, suck the river backward. Everything that goes up Northfield is going to die in the future. Let's do a quick thing. I went on ISO New England Real Time. You can go ISO New England Real Time. They'll tell you what the energy mix is. How does Northfield operate? Today it was operating, sucking the river backwards on 65% fracked natural gas, 25% nuclear. The rest was just a little bit of a sideshow.
So the idea that it's green is, you can throw that out the window.
I mean, it is deadly. It's an ecosystem killer. And what came out, and I've advertised this pretty hard, but there was one little line in some of their submissions. 34% more energy goes up that plant before you produce anything, 34% waste. They have been natural gassing, sucking the climate up for these past, since Vermont Yankee closed in 2014. These were all nuclear-based plants. But the other piece of it is, their big promises are going to be our big energy storage, and this is really all Boston politics. It's not about us, right? So they can suck the river for 15 hours per day and then spit out maybe 6 to 8 hours, a little bit, and we do not need that every day. It is not necessary. They're picking up natural gas and waste nuclear energy that should be able to shut down, right? We're built on a consumer operating model, and we're all like trained monkeys. I mean, look at the stuff that we got going on. We're gonna have AI. We're gonna have Bitcoin. We have online gambling.
All of that requires massive energy consumption.
Pot growers indoors, whatever. This is what we keep tacking on. And it's been Boston's policy since the Patrick administration to have this big, fat Eastern Canada, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, energy infrastructure, right? It's all business driven.
It's a consortium.
And it's all, FERC is sort of beholden to no one, right? This was supposed to be a 5-year process, supposed to end in 2018.
It started in 2012, you said?
Yeah, 2012. ISO New England, all they care about, all they feel responsible to do is energy supply and price. So that supposedly, but none of them care about climate, right? They're just, it is just the biggest suck. So what the promise is in the future is they're going to build, and they've started building all these wind turbines off the coast, right? Of course, the people at the coast, that's where the energy's got to go, right? These wealthy cities, Boston, Providence, the whole metro areas, right? The people out of Cape Cod, I was just out there, they don't want to see the turbines.
Oh, no.
No, and there's pushback, and it's taking them a long time to build those turbines, Drew. They don't want to see them. And they don't see the Connecticut River. Right? This is a promise that 34% waste from the get-go. Then you have to build the infrastructure to pull that energy here, to give us a little boost at night. That's at least another 5% for short-term, 10%. So that's 45. And then you got to send it back the other way. We're talking over 50% waste. We are just trained monkey consumers, right? I for the longest time I've gone about my life thinking everything that you conserve buys time for those generations that come after us. And all we do, we are electrified to the nines. We cannot live without our plug-in and stuff. So this has been Boston policy. So this DEP thing that's happening, we get, people are going to get to talk to them. And the only question that needs to be answered, right, is how in the world can you sanction a machine? You've turned the Connecticut River into a machine and say that it meets Clean Water Act standards when there's no natural flow to a river and it flows backwards and kills everything that goes in there. This is just... it's kind of unbelievable that we have sort of sat and let this happen for all this time. But that's a scenario. It is sort of background Boston policy. You can, Joe Comerford has sort of arranged for these things. But the official is going to, I think it's 8 months. After they take these comments, there's going to be another hearing when they issue the potential water quality. And that's going to be an official one, which means... the deed's already done.
Right.
The deed is already done.
This is all pro forma right now, you think?
Thank you for that. Pro forma, make people feel good about what it is. So, but as I said, Drew, let's pray. Let's pray. How can you not? There are people that came into this in the last year or two, even some legal minds, and they want to go about this and say, we're going to go under the rights of nature. And I look at that and I say, this process has been going on for a decade or more, and you're going to come in with the rights of nature now. That's like telling people your reward will come when you get to heaven. You know, you go and you sue now. I just, it's phenomenal to me that there is nobody with some integrity that wants to say, no, this can't happen. We can live with this. Without this, we need to. I mean, that is the bottom line. Consume less. Dr. Barry Commoner told me this, you know, back in '76 on the Seabrook nuclear site. You know, and that was it. You don't want these nuclear plants? You don't want climate warming? Consume less. Every time you choose to not consume, you're buying time for the children. But we're not buying anything with the way we
But you got to think about the shareholders, Karl.
So,
it always comes back to the shareholders.
There you go. So I'm trying to think of what else we can do. I mean, this is a $250 billion global outfit. They've been buying up little operations like hydro operations that have been going on forever. Now, we're a clean, green organization. So they've been going out. They bought things in Western Pennsylvania, which is the Mississippi watershed, I believe. New Jersey. Now they're in Quebec, Ontario. So it's all sort of window dressing, and then of course you look around here, and you have everybody scrambling to also rob our farmland to put up big solar, industrial solar.
And the whole thing about the solar is, hello, we have parking lots. Why wouldn't you put them over parking lots? I'm sorry. It's just...
Drew, it's private equity. I mean, the people that came around and commented to FERC on this comprehensive agreement were like the Massachusetts Business Roundtable. There were a bunch of towns that ring around Boston, the Inside 495 group. Why are they in favor of this? Why did they tick in? There are no towns out this way that are saying, oh, you have to do this. This is all about commerce, all about business. And First Light turns around and, well, here's one thing. There's a little tiny pump storage plant in Connecticut. I think it's called Chippewa, Rocky River. Anyway, there's a big lake, Candlewood Lake, that holds water, but they pump water uphill. Where's that energy being marketed to? The town of Burlington, Vermont is buying that energy to put a little fig leaf over meeting their green energy needs. It's all smoke and mirrors. We're just being told to consume, that we need this. We can't live without it. Drew, the Connecticut River, we did pretty okay until about 50 years ago. We live without this. It is waste. First Light actually gets this power sometimes for free. Low cost, no cost. It's sitting out there because it's not being used.
It's for free, but we're paying for it.
And the river's paying. I mean, if without it, what's a world without living rivers? The fish that come up this river, back in 1967, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Mass Fish and Wildlife, National Marine Fisheries, they had little slightly different names. They were promising us 850,000 American shad.
Right.
Well, they were going to feed us.
Right.
They were supposed to provide us with seafood. Now we look at a river like it's an afterthought. Right. Because they blew it. They base their Turner's Falls fish passage, the ladders, 3 ladders, on salmon who had been extinct on the river that strain since 1809, since the year Charles Darwin was born, right? And then when it didn't work, they hid the truth, failed to tell us, and they had 40 years to correct that truth and start telling the truth. Now we're going to have to wait. If this thing gets relicensed, and pray God we get a lawyer, Drew, in the meantime, now we're going to have this for another 50 years. I mean, we're finally going to get official. But First Light is so clever. They may have big DC law firms, BSP Investments. They're so clever that, it's 6 years beyond license now. Every year they're just making money. They're taking that
They don't care if it actually gets relicensed.
That $160 million, and they set up their own bank. Green Bank, $97 million bank. They were lending money I don't remember the name of the operation who was going to build the big solar batteries and solar farm in Wendell.
Oh boy. Right.
I mean, it's all money. It's all sort of float around money. And the thing about this thing that's coming up, October 10th, 6 o'clock, You can go online, Mass DEP, First Light Power. You can get on there virtually. So supposedly, okay, DEP is going to be there to answer questions. So is Mass Division of Fish and Wildlife Service, who basically, I've been attending meetings for decades now. Atlantic Salmon Commission, it's now called something else. It was Salmon Commission years before we ever had any. They were never endangered. I lost my train of thought, Drew. Has this ever happened to you? Who's not going to be at National Marine Fisheries is not going to be there, but First Light is not going to be there.
Right.
First Light, who gives money, by the way, to the Opera House and to the Shea Theater, right? And they give out these little PR grants, right? $1,500 or $500 to school here, and then they shuffle money around to other things, sort of the businesses and stuff that people do there. And you don't read about those, but they keep people's mouths shut. So you're not going to find any who are the people that should be there. Right? We don't even see these people. I was lucky enough, I bumped into them one day up at Northfield Mountain. I was just riding my bike. I was really dreary. And you know how dreary I am.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
You're dreary.
And I'm on my bike, and I go down to the First Light's intake. And there's a van load of them. And they're down there, and what's his name? Peter Ryder. Big man, and he's showing them. He's pointing upstream on our river and downstream on our river, like he's ever lived here and lives around here. And I was just flummoxed, but you don't get to see them. So I rode my bike up, made sure they saw me, and it looked like a bunch of organized crime, mafia lawyers. All of a sudden, there's a few of them recognized me, and I made sure he went around. And then and they finally said, "Oh, let's get out of here." They start getting into the band, and I've never met Peter Ryder, but he's the director of commercial operations. Hi, Karl. I said, "Hi, gentlemen. Good to see you." But these people stay invisible. As to the people that signed off on this,
right?
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm trying to think of who the lawyer is. It begins with an L, but U.S. Fish. Mass Division, National Marine Fisheries have all pledged their allegiance to a foreign Canadian corporation. Right?
Shame on them.
And this is public sector pension investments, but what it really is sort of, I guess we're getting to the end, is it's the pensions of the military, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, teachers, or whatever. And so they take this money, this $160 million, they buy up other things, but these are long-term investments. They are invested all over the world. Right?
Which is not wrong.
Oh, well,
I mean, companies, pension funds have to make investments, but the thing is that this investment is harming us. These agencies that are supposed to be protecting the river are derelict.
They have no relationship to who we are.
But we do. We have a relationship with our viewers, but we also have to say goodbye. So
true. Goodbye. We're praying. Lawyers, whatever. October 10th.
Lawyers, guns, and money.
Online, Shea Theater at 6 o'clock in person, but online, just dial up Mass DEP, First Light Power, and you got to go down a little list, but you can check in there and make sure you're done.
All right.
But really, Drew, this is a horror show that we should not pass on.
Right.
And I'm sure, I don't want our prayers to be answered in the afterlife.
Right. Let's take care of it now. Thank you for joining me and my guest, Karl Meyer. You've been tuned to Local Bias. I'm Drew Hutchison. Take care.